listening to Season 1 of the Get Started podcast, the podcast show set to reveal fintech's brightest founders. We've kicked off with 9 fintech leaders recording live at Europe's biggest fintech show, Money2020. Stay tuned and email us at contact@getstarted.media if you'd like to feature.
Welcome to the Get Started podcast. We're here at Money2020 2024. I'm here with Matt Bird, the CEO and founder of Lemon. It's great to have you here, Matt. Thanks so much for joining us. It would be great if you could kick us off by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about Lemon and why the business exists.
Hello. Thanks for having me. So yeah, like you mentioned, I'm Matt. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Lemon. We essentially are a gateway product that connects banks and lending and credit funds to high quality SaaS contracts that basically allows a software salesperson to offer cost saving credit to their customer. What that means is they can offer a discounted annual rate, but allow the customer to retain monthly payments. So they're not parting ways with big sums of cash, so they can support their cash flow. And yeah, so it helps kind of everybody in that scenario. So yeah, that is a little bit about Lemon.
Fantastic. So what would you say the core mission and vision of your company is? I know obviously we've just talked a little bit about the cash flow issues for businesses at the moment. But what would you say the main vision and where did the idea come from?
So it's interesting. People think that lemon means like easy peasy lemon squeezy, and that's not correct. So when I had the idea of Lemon, it's about helping businesses kind of do less monthly, or spend less monthly. And like the marketing genius that I am, I just combined the words less and monthly to make Lemon. So yeah, users of this finance, obviously they'll save money on software, so they can put that back into things that matter, growth of their business, team, operations. So they're, saving money and being able to reinvest it back into their company. For software vendors, it allows them to get more kind of revenue up front. So there's less churn for them monthly and kind of less admin as well. Like you don't have to manage monthly payments. They can just, get paid up front. And likewise, they can, it gives them more cash to reinvest into their business. So it's more kind of organic. And that's kind of the overarching mission really is to make this kind of SaaS transaction a lot easier and a lot cheaper and a lot more kind of effective for everybody. And, our kind of bigger thoughts around this are, if businesses can save money, hopefully they'll be in business for a lot longer. And with the vendor side, if they can make more money up front, they will arguably be in business for longer because they're not having to raise as much money, not having to get debt into the business. And so that's kind of the overall idea, because software is still a business's third largest expense after people and rent. So we're really trying to help them with that line of their business in as many kind of ways as possible.
I know that Lemon is quite a new-ish company. How long have you been operating now, and how long have you been making this difference for businesses?
So yeah, we started this in April or May 2023 with the kind of first ideas of what this should look like. Spent the entirety of the year just testing the market, finding the biggest pain points that we were trying to solve, and proving and disproving some ideas that we had. And towards the back end of last year, we really doubled down on the model that we have now. And I suppose where we sit today has been, a work in progress for kind of the last 6 to 8 months.
Amazing. So you're also based out of the wonderful Manchester. Obviously, a lot of fintechs at the moment are based out of London. What was your decision behind basing Lemon out of Manchester?
It wasn't like an active decision. It was just where I was based, where my co-founder's based, where our kind of immediate network is, the immediate companies that we're working with, they're all based there. And so, yeah, in today's kind of world, I think it doesn't matter as much where you're based, because you can almost be global from day one, which is obviously like the beauty of software. But yeah, I think we'll stick in Manchester for a little bit, but obviously expand our reach when it comes to building the team into different geographies as well. And when it comes to raising finance, there's still this big divide with North, South, and even the UK versus the US. So I think we'll expand our kind of reach when the time comes to do that.
Great. Thank you so much for telling us a little bit more about Lemon. We're now going to move into our next segment, the Started in 7 segment, which is designed to give founders a platform to discuss their startup journey so far, as well as sharing their perspectives on the current business landscape. So firstly, can you just describe the moment, the challenge, or the opportunity that finally pushed you over the edge and compelled you to start your business?
No, because it's kind of morphed from everything. So I'm in a bit of an interesting position where I've never actually had a job. I've always had startups. I've always had a business that I've been either starting, building, growing. And so everything's just kind of morphed into one. And as I was going through those journeys, everything kind of evolved, and you see different problems, you see different opportunities, you choose to pursue them or not pursue them. And especially with Lemon, there was something a couple of years ago, my previous startup, where it was a subscription business, albeit consumer subscription business. But we were trying to battle kind of COVID, and our cash flow was really tight. So we were trying to sell more annual subscriptions so we could get revenue in upfront. And the way we did that was dangle like a 30% discount on annual subscriptions versus if a customer just retained monthly payments. But what we found is customers didn't want to part ways with that lump sum of cash all at once. And they were saying to me, we like this annual plan, but can we retain monthly payments for it? And at the time we kind of discarded it because that wasn't the objective of what we were trying to do. But I think actually that was the catalyst of how we kind of chose to pursue Lemon, because it was something that we'd experienced as a business, but also we have experience of the kind of the problem from the buyer side as well. Like we were always paying a premium because we didn't have lots of money in the account to be able to pay for the annual plan up front. So yeah, it was kind of a combination, and I think we had we did a lot of kind of feedback sessions with potential customers also to see if this was something worth pursuing. And once we knew exactly what the problems were and they aligned with our idea of what the problems were, we kind of went all in on it.
I think that's a great catalyst and definitely a moment that you can sort of describe and pinpoint as the main, thing that started Lemon. I think something that our listeners will be really interested to hear is what would be like the one moment in your journey as a founder, whether that be your previous businesses you founded or Lemon, that you would repeat again if you could?
That is a very tough question. Moment I would repeat again. It's quite hard, I think, as founders as well. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. But you never necessarily see or feel the exciting and positive bits. You always are fixed on what could be better, what has gone wrong, how far you've still got to go. I think for me, with this one though, that I can put my finger on, we were trying to raise money in 2023 when everybody was telling us we couldn't raise money in 2023. And there's this thing, I think, mentality-wise, where you're always trying to prove to yourself that you can do it, or prove to the people that say no that they're wrong and you're right. And towards the back end of last year, like I said, when everyone was like, you'll never raise in this environment, we closed a round of funding. And it wasn't, I don't necessarily celebrate raising a round of funding because it is just it's part of it's a necessity in a way, and it is just the fuel to get you going. And, the hard work does start now, but it was almost like an internal validation of what we're building is worth building. It is worth investing in. We knew it's valuable. We knew that, we were right all along in a way. And that feeling's pretty good because you go through a lot of no's to get to one yes. And I think I had like 160 meetings last year about raising funding. And so you get a lot of no's, you get a lot of pushback, you get a lot of people saying, this probably isn't going to work right now. And you wouldn't necessarily be human if you didn't start doubting yourself in that process. So I think as soon as you get a yes and you get that kind of round over the line, it's quite a self-satisfying feeling, and you can't really describe it, I don't think, because it's, like I said, it's quite short-lived in terms of you raise the funding and maybe a day later you're like, okay, I've got to put it to work now. But yeah, that's probably the one thing I can remember anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really important to mention your latest raise. Congratulations on raising £500,000. Absolutely fantastic to see a fintech closing deals at the moment. Obviously, we know it's been a difficult landscape and hard to raise during this time. What is one moment on your journey that you can think of, just to flip the question, that you would never want to do again? Obviously, fundraising is so hard to do, and probably that first fundraise was probably really tough. But is there sort of anything that you would pinpoint as something you would never want to do again?
That one's a lot easier. So in a business I had pre-COVID and through COVID, like I was saying before, we had very limited kind of cash resource. We'd raised a little bit of money from an angel investor, but when COVID hit, the demand for our product just vanished. Like the industry we were in got decimated like 95% overnight. And I knew there was an end date to keep the lights on, so I took out a £50,000 loan in that business and personally guaranteed it. So I guaranteed it against, the assets that I have, but also I used some family assets against that as well. So that wasn't a clever decision, and obviously the business we ended up closing the business down. But just because the business closed down, I still had that personal guarantee. So I still owed the lender like 45k or something like that. And yeah, so I would never do that again. And I always tell people to avoid personal guarantees on loans anyway. Plus, it's something that I think needs to be fixed as a whole. But yeah, between shutting that company down and starting Lemon, I also had to do like advisory work, like loads of random stuff for other founders, other businesses, getting paid 500 quid here, doing a project that I might get paid 10k for, all to get this personally guaranteed loan paid back. And obviously you want to do that as quickly as possible. Very, very difficult. So yeah, would never, ever, ever take a personally guaranteed loan out to run an early stage startup. It's just far too risky. I would also never secure my family's house against a loan again, because that was quite stressful. Never again.
Never again. Wow. So I think moving away from that slightly, we'll go back to being positive and just have a think about what is your biggest motivator and why does that motivate you?
That is interesting. I don't have I think for me, like I said before, I've never had a proper job. And before that, when I was at school and college, listen, I got 4 GCSEs. And it's not because I'm not necessarily bright. I was just focused on different things other than the work that I was supposed to be doing at school. And so I think on paper there's this, I don't know, it's probably insecurity within me that thinks I'm a bit disappointed that I've only got 4 GCSEs to my name kind of thing. And I think there's always that drive to show that actually, in my case, it doesn't matter, and I can just I can achieve a lot of success without having the GCSEs or necessarily the qualification. And that's one of the interesting things about being in fintech now is, I'm sitting in rooms with, people at some of the kind of world's largest banks and these investors and lenders. And one of them, from, I won't name the name of the bank, but a kind of a big global bank asked me where I studied economics. And I was like, I haven't. But that kind of stuff keeps me going, like proving that I can learn very quickly. In terms of if I want to do it, I will dive in, I will learn, and ambition is to become the best at that certain thing. And I think for me that is enough kind of motivation to keep going on. Yeah, there's nothing other than, I suppose it's proving to myself that it can be done as well. It's not about proving it to anybody else, because that's can get quite unhealthy. But yeah, proving to myself that my kind of academic education doesn't define me.
I think some of the most successful people in the world don't have qualifications as well. So yeah, it definitely can be done. And obviously you're sort of proving that point right now. So you're quite successful. You've been quite successful in sort of your raising, obviously getting in some really big rooms, some really big conversations at the moment. Did you expect your business to be sort of more or less successful by this point in your life cycle?
That's never something that's ever crossed my mind. I think there is you fall into a trap when you think, oh, we should be further along in 12 months time, or we should be bigger than this in 12 months time. At the stage we're at, there's so little data to go off to suggest that we should be at any size in 12 months time. And yeah, I think we are where we are today, and that's totally fine. It's probably where we should be. So yeah, I don't put pressure on us to think that we should be further ahead than we currently are, because I think we are quite, we're doing some really good things. We're all getting out of bed in the morning and working on a project that we're, really passionate about solving. And yeah, I don't think, I wouldn't change anything. I don't think we could have gone any quicker. I think we spent a lot of time getting pushbacks, but I think that actually makes for a better business out at the end of it. So I think, yeah, we're kind of at the perfect position in our business. And like I said, there's no pressure on where we should be in the next 12 months either. Kind of what will be. We'll just try and be as big as possible and move as far along as possible. And obviously we've got milestones that we want to hit and things that we want to do. But if we're not turning over 100 million by this time next year, I'm not going to be too gutted.
I think it's great that you've got that outlook, and sort of limiting the pressure on yourself will probably help in the long run. I think it's an interesting time at the moment because a lot of startups are unfortunately collapsing. And I just wanted to sort of ask you, why do you think so many startups struggle to break through or struggle to succeed in the current landscape?
Because they give up. It's as simple as that. There's always people saying, they run out of money, or, they can't find, there's no customers, there's no blah, blah, blah. That is the case for most businesses. I think the best ones will always listen to customers and kind of try and find a pivot, or they'll try and build something to what their customer wants. I think there's a lot of times where founders in particular have got this idea that they think will set the world on fire, but actually nobody wants the product. And, there's maybe a little bit of, naivety or ego or whatever we call it that says, just because, and it'll make them close it down probably too early as well. If people spent a bit more time dealing with customers, talking to customers, understanding what their pain points were, probably it's a skill. It's not easy. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I think more businesses would survive. I think people get scared of the pivot. So many things that we use today, and the biggest companies in the world are products of a pivot. Slack was never supposed to be Slack. I think it's supposed to be a video game or something. And they basically had no way of communicating internally about building this video game. And now Slack's a communications tool for teams, right? So it's and it's easy to run out of steam. It's tough. It's not easy. It's not for everybody. People, maybe underestimate how hard work it is as well. And so when nobody assumes you're going to make it when you're a founder, especially not in the UK. The odds are very much stacked against you, and they should be. But yeah, I think you can always find money if you know where to look and you work hard enough to find where to look. You can always find customers if you speak to them and know where to find more of them. And yeah, I think it all boils down to businesses and founders and business owners just packing it in.
I think there's definitely an element of perseverance to startup businesses, it's sort of great to see businesses who do persevere and sort of get that build that resilience. I think sort of the resilience from startup founders is really prevalent, especially like here at Money 2020, seeing a lot of the startups that prevailed that are now here. So I think it's definitely, really important to look at them all as resilient companies. In 10 years' time, what will be fundamentally different about our lives?
I think a lot of the boring stuff that we have to do won't exist anymore, or it will exist, but machines and AI will take over and do it. And that's what and I think that's where this frenzy has come to with AI, is just like so much of the stuff that we just assume we have to do on a day-to-day basis suddenly gets removed. Everyone hopefully becomes more efficient. Maybe people are going to be happier because they're not committing, as much as their life to these boring things. Who knows? But yeah, who knows where the next 10 years are going to, who knows where the world's going to be in 10 years. Like, you can never quite predict. Like, COVID might happen again in 3 years, who knows? But yeah, from a kind of technical standpoint, I think, there's going to be lots of cool stuff in the next 10 years that's going to make everybody's life a bit easier.
One of the key themes at Money 2020 this year is AI. So I think whilst we're at the show, it would be great to sort of hear some of your thoughts on the event itself. And, firstly, why do you think an event like Money 2020 is so important to the fintech sector?
We were walking around before, and it was like this place is huge. I didn't realize like how big it would be and how many companies would be here. But we were walking around before, and I said, didn't I haven't heard of half of these companies. And it just shows how many kind of service providers and how many, companies there are in the world and in existence that help, the movement of money essentially in one form or another. And I think just getting exposure and seeing those companies is hugely valuable, because it kind of encourages some more creativity in your brain, and you try and think, right, maybe if I use that, we could enter into a new market, or if we use that product, we could do something different, or, so there's lots of people trying to solve lots of real big problems. And, for me, finance and money it is the way the world works. Like, it is at center of everything, whether we like it or not. Like, everyone needs money, right? So, yeah, being here gives, startups like myself the opportunity to meet new companies, but also meet, JP Morgan are here, Visa are here, loads of big companies are here. And in the real world, it's quite hard to get meetings and conversations with those types of people. Whereas here, you just organize it through an app, one click of a button, and you can meet, the head of such and such at whatever bank, which is quite powerful. And everybody's here to make new connections as well. So everybody's in the mindset of having kind of conversations to learn more about each other. Everyone's like outside of the day-to-day monotony, potential monotony of work, and just a little bit more kind of interested and intrigued into what the community's doing.
And obviously coming to Money 2020 is quite an investment in time, an investment in sort of resource and obviously money for startup founders. When would you say the right time is for a startup founder to start considering attending these events and investing that time and those resources into coming to these events?
I would say as soon as possible. Like, even if you're kind of pre-product, like I said, you see all these vendors and all these other technologies that can help build the product that you would never necessarily come across on Google or whatever. You get to see them, and it all depends how much you value time, right? So if you think the potential of what you could get from coming here, your ticket might cost €1,000 or whatever it was, but would you pay €1,000 to meet 5 of the biggest banks in the world? Probably. Like, will you get something out of it? Who knows? But you've got a contact, and you've got a gateway, you've got a lead, you've got somebody who you told your business to. And so actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's not too crazy. And you get free popcorn, so that's probably worth it as well.
Definitely free perks. So thanks so much for joining me today, Matt. It's been a really enjoyable conversation, and it's been great to hear your insights into the industry, into Lemon, and sort of what you think the future is going to look like. Have you got any final thoughts for us today?
So, final thoughts. Not final thoughts as such. Maybe something I'll be allowed to mention.
Probably a better question is, can you tell us what's coming next for Lemon?
I was about to say, I'm just going to do that anyway. So yeah, exciting times for Lemon. We launching our kind of first pilot customer of lending, credit, financing product in June, so this month. But we're on the path now, and we're well on our kind of way to. We've got an objective to raise £250 million of credit availability. It seems a lot, but there is good reason, and we're not trying to do that all at once. Although, if you're listening and you have 250 million that you want us to lend, we're quite happy to chat. But yeah, that's a significant number in this kind of world, because you're proving yourself as a good lending product. Everyone will start taking you a bit more seriously. The rates will get better. Your cost of capital gets better, and by us doing that, it allows us to move at speed as well. So we know there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of companies that already have registered to use our product. So yeah, we want to get that kind of credit raised in the next kind of 12, 24 months, get that into the market, help more businesses save money, help more SaaS vendors get paid up front, move the economy forward. And yeah, that's the plan.
Big plans coming for Lemon. Well, best of luck with everything, Matt. It's been great to speak to you today, and enjoy the rest of the show.
You've been listening to Get Started Podcast, the podcast show set to reveal fintech's brightest founders, brought to you by Communications House for Entrepreneurs Started. To take part, email contact@getstarted.media or WhatsApp us on +44 7822 01 8863.